Dr. B here with Mentally Strong and interviewing our next nominee for the Mentally Strong Award.
Yeah, so I'm Karen and I have the honor of working for Angels of America's Fallen. We work with families of the fallen. So folks that have lost their fallen hero, military, first responder, police officers, firefighters, either in combat training due to illness, and also, of course, to PTS-related suicide.
Yeah. And are we seeing a lot of that?
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, it's such a trying time,
Right.
I think, for everybody. As Americans, we're experiencing this moment in our history in one way. As a wounded veteran, you know, I'm feeling it in another way. As a mother of a service member, I'm feeling it in another way. But our families of the fallen and our brothers and sisters that have served have a completely different perspective of this. And it is reopening new wounds for all of them, because there comes a point where you have to determine, was this meaningful? Was this loss? Is it still going to be honored? And emphatically, yes, it is.
If you are a military member or a family member and you're listening right now, please listen to the end. She has a powerful story of hope and resilience and mental strength, so that we don't want anyone to get to that point where suicide is an option. Take that off the table as we hear her story. So thank you so much. So tell us what you're doing day to day for these heroes.
Great, yeah. We pull in the families and we partner with them from the moment of loss until their children reach adulthood.
Okay.
The kids are high risk for kind of three major things. One is dropping out of school, turning to drugs and alcohol, and committing suicide. So heavy.
Yeah.
So our belief is that by engaging them in extracurricular activities, we're anchoring them to their school, their community. We are building resiliency on a daily basis. We're giving them a way to honor their fallen hero in a very powerful and impactful way. And we're keeping them alive.
Yeah.
You know, that's the ultimate goal.
Right. Wow. And this is personal for you because you are a wounded veteran. And you know, I know, you know, for myself and all of us that work in mental health that have had significant things happen to us, things can be triggering. Like you're actually helping somebody and it's triggering some of these feelings for you. So let's rewind to your enlistment in the Army. Tell us about that.
Sure. Well, and first I want to say that this gives me a daily way to honor my fallen brothers and sisters by supporting the dreams of their children.
Right.
And so even though, yes, and it is similar for the families, we believe that there is healing and helping. And so, yeah, we kind of take that Band-Aid and rip it off every now and then. But that also enables healing on a deeper level.
Right. Oh, absolutely. It's a journey. And this is what I tell my followers all the time. Mental strength is a journey. You're not going to go to therapy for 10 sessions and be mentally strong, right? New things happen. Allowing yourself to help others is really healing.
Well, and when my boss had told me that he put me in, I thought it was for a mentally wrong award. And I was like, I'm a shoo-in. So then he said mentally strong. It was really interesting to see your life through the lens of somebody else's eyes. And yeah, so anyways.
Well, and how does that feel for someone to see you as mentally strong?
It's interesting. It's weird. It's uncomfortable. I have 400 children who I feel are so much more mentally strong than I am. I don't know. It is a path. I don't always feel strong.
Yeah.
I wake up in the morning.
We say that all the time.
Not knowing, you know, what my body can or can't do, what my capabilities will be able to be as far as, you know, my mental health and so yeah, I don't always feel mentally strong.
Right. But that's about, you know, and this is where we have to start this conversation. I think, you know, people always look at mental strength as no problems, and there's that's not real life. And then there's those of us that have been through real problems and we can keep going. If you are suicidal and you didn't commit suicide today, then you are strong, right? Like it's what can you do today to stay alive, to find your purpose, to help other people?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So 1990, or what year did you enlist?
Oh, I went in. We actually declared war while I was in basic training. So
surprise!
So here I thought I was, going to the military and I was going to be this big Olympic star runner. When you join the military as an athlete ambassador or part of the Olympic professional development team, you also have to have an MOS. And so I chose to go into the mental health field because I was drawn to it. It was my passion because of things and people in my life that I've watched overcome such amazing things. And also, I think a part of it was because I did a lot of things wrong growing up. Sorry, Mom and Dad.
Right.
But when, in relation to other people's mental health issues, I so desperately, I had a best friend who was persistently suicidal because of some sexual trauma. And then I have a relative who really worked through a lot of addiction stuff. And truly, as much as I wanted to love them and help them, I made a lot of mistakes. And so it was my zeal to figure this piece out, like how can I help folks.
Yeah. And so you went in thinking, I'm going to help people who have mental health challenges. I'm a Olympic runner, like you. This was going to be your job.
Yeah, delusions. Right? Very delusional.
Yes.
But yeah, I had some success in running. Had Olympic trial qualifier. And everybody that, you just dream. You dream. And yes, I'm going to the Olympics.
Yeah.
No, not so much. But it was a passion. It was a path.
And then what happened?
While serving, so part of my job, I would, certainly work out and, have this great kind of athletic career going. But you also still have to keep your mental health credentials up. So one of the aspects of care that I would provide is emergency psychiatric services. So if somebody came in that was suicidal, homicidal, rape, psychotic moments, things like that, they would call us into the emergency room. At the time, I was stationed at our Center for Desert Warfare, so I was not deployed. So that has levels to it as well. A lot of folks minimize the fact that people are harmed or injured in their duty. On this particular day, we had a Marine present to us who we did not know to our practice, and he apparently for 2 years had been trying to commit suicide in increasing levels of lethality. And on this particular day, he had decided that it was going to be a suicide by cop type scenario. And so when they called me in, he had pulled a weapon, and there was a tussle. He did shoot himself, however, it was not lethal. But in the subsequent response to that, he tried to escape. And we're out in the desert. And it's an unfortunate place because it's so triggering for people who have served in Desert Storm, which is right around that time period. And we lose people there once a month, whether it be to a training accident or to a lot of suicide out there. And so, my thing is I'm not going to lose somebody. And so I unfortunately kind of grabbed a hold of him. He was heading towards the doors, and then it's desert. It's, so I was thrown across the room. My first impact fracture was to my sacrum, which is an odd angle to have been injured at. And then I continued to try to stop him, and again was thrown. And our chairs are bolted to the floor for our safety so that people can't throw them at us, kind of similar to the prison systems that you've been in. So I was wrapped around that. So that was my second impact. And then my third impact was the weight of everybody coming out. So my pelvis was splayed. I sustained a spinal cord injury that day, and I did not know it. In fact, when the MPs showed up, in mass, as they will, and there were weapons everywhere, I crawled across the floor and actually covered him, because I knew that if he got his hands on a weapon, they would kill him. So my life changed rather dramatically that day. I lost my mobility. I, to this day, have transverse myelitis. It's very similar to MS. I'm considered plagic. I'm not paraplegic, but I am plagic. I fall. My mom will tell you I was not the most graceful creature to begin with, so I didn't need that on top of it. But everything is affected from your digestion system, basically from the sacral lumbar region on down. So every system is affected pretty dramatically. With the transverse myelitis, there's a demyelination of the myelin sheaths around the nerves. So I wake up in the morning, and most days are joyful, but some days, I fall out of bed because I don't know, hey, are you guys awake down there? There was excruciating pain, obviously, and because of my previous issues with pain medication resulting from a surgery when I was younger, I knew that my brain liked pain meds way too much, and so I opted to do this path without pain medication. It wasn't, I don't know, it's not like a stoic thing, it's not a strong thing, it's because I knew I was weak. People are like, oh, but that is
so
brave. And
recognizing your weaknesses is strength, and this is what we're trying to portray. Strength is not having problems, it's having, I always say, insight equals confidence. Like, you have to know you to be, to move forward in this journey. So proud to hear that story. Do you feel like you saved a life that day, or do you feel like you lost yours?
Oh, interesting question.
Or both.
It comes down to meaning and was it worth it? It's similar to what our families experience now, going through what we're going through as a country. And 6 months later, I was in the movie theater with my son. I'm in a wheelchair. I'm trying to get soda. If you can imagine trying to get soda out of a machine from that angle, it's awkward. And I see this young man walk towards me, and he just starts bawling. And he, and as when you see one of your clients out in the real world, you don't acknowledge them. It's not a mean thing. It's just for their privacy. And he walked over and he just said, "Do you remember me?" And I was like, "Of course I do." And he was just crying, and he said, for 2 years he had been trying to kill himself, and it was at that moment, at that very moment when he saw me laying there and that he knew I was hurt, that he knew that his actions were hurting others around him, and that he made a choice at that moment to live.
I knew it was going to be a powerful story,
to
but
live. And at that point that it's important. This may sound a little stocky, but years ago I had an incident. I had chicken pox, which you imagine at 40 years old. In and out of the hospital, pneumonia. It was very hard for me because if I don't move, I'm like a shark. If I don't move, I die. If I don't move, the pain becomes so intense. And here I'm laid up for 2 months, and I went into a deep place, a very dark place for for myself, and so I kind of looked him up. Love social media, and he does not know this, so if you're listening, but I needed to know. You get to that point: was it worth it?
Right.
And what I saw was a beautiful family, children. And, you don't know everything from social media, but
right.
At that point, I was like, okay, yes, it was worth it. And in so many other ways, because what I've experienced has led me to a new journey in life, in working with people with disabilities, being able to be an advocate for them, opening up access and support and opportunities. So it really has changed my trajectory.
Right.
The reality was, I was a good runner. I probably wasn't going to the Olympics. But I get to go to my own Olympics every day because I get to continue to serve, and I get to help people realize that regardless of what life throws at you, that there's so much more, so many layers, so much.
Right.
And it's not an easy path.
Yeah.
There are dark days, and there's depression and PTS, and I've had so much brain trauma, either from that incident and also because I fall and I break bones and I tear muscles and and I'm
And
just
you're
a mess.
You're amazing. Definitely amazing. I'm trying not to cry too much, but I know that in my own personal struggles, I have those days too, those really dark days, and I think that this is what I want to start people, feeling okay to talk about, because, what happens is they can't talk about it, and then it just goes deeper and deeper and deeper, and then they feel like there's no option but suicide. What would you tell someone, and I'm sure you have to do this often with families, that are in that place, that are thinking about suicide, or they're having one of those really, really dark days? What do you tell yourself? Right? Because what we say to ourselves matters.
It does, that internal dialogue is so powerful. I'm a strong believer in CBT and being able to really empower people that, yes, your emotions are so real, and that you need to give yourself space to grieve, whatever that is. So for our veterans who are grieving what they considered was going to be their normal life, or the loss of those around them, or the loss of their innocence when they go through so much, and for our youth that have lost their parent, whatever that grief journey is, it's so personal.
Right, and grief is not just the loss of someone. I mean, you've had to grieve your whole life. You've lost your running. Well, you lost it for a period of time. I heard you just did a run. Tell us about that.
Oh, goodness.
So you had to grieve the loss of running, and then now you're back trying to run.
Sure. It took about 15 years to learn how to run again, and it was...
Don't give up. It took her 15 years.
And it's actually, there's so many pieces to that. It's my son kind of convincing me. I turned to coaching, and so I started working with people with disabilities and folks. I just wanted people to feel what I felt when I ran, because I couldn't feel it anymore. And it's so powerful on so many levels.
I hate running, but...
Oh, no. But you have to find that passion.
Right.
And so it was everything from, again, my son kind of convincing me, hey, can you coach our track team? And I was like, what? But I had so many people and so much knowledge in my brain. And so I decided to go for a jog. He convinced me to go for a jog one day with them to explain the workout. I was the worst coach ever. I would hide in a bathroom and watch them because I couldn't walk, and I was facing amputation at that point, and the pain was so intense. What I found through exercise, because again of my son, it was so powerful because it helped with the pain. I had turned to alcohol in a very deep and dark way. I'm in recovery about 13 years now. I'm very proud of that.
Yeah, and that's a whole nother thing.
Yeah,
I can talk to this woman for a long time.
But I had to learn how to dorsal flex my feet. I had to learn how to spread my toes. I had to learn how to go 3 steps without falling. And just kind of, it is a controlled fall when you run, I found. But I returned to competitive running for about 2 years. And the only reason I don't, besides the fact that, mostly because I'm old now. It's like,
now we have another thing to grieve, right?
So now I do these stunts, and it's usually to raise awareness for something. So for my 50th birthday, I ran 50 miles. And again, it was a fundraiser. It was right in the midst of COVID, and we needed to find a way, to raise money. And that was a painful process.
Wow.
And then in May, this past May, I ran, for the month of May, I ran 515 miles. And it was to help recontextualize the notion of Memorial Day. It's not a happy day for us.
Right.
Those that have served, those have had the types of loss that Memorial Day commemorates. And so every day I'd run May 1st, 1 mile, May 2nd, 2 miles. That felt good. But May 15th was 15 miles, May 16th, 16 miles. So by the end of it, I know, I'm not, mentally wrong, not mentally strong.
No, but because that's your passion and you're using that for a cause, and it feels good. It feels good for you. To be able to do that. And thank you for telling us about those dark days. What do you tell yourself on those dark days when you're really not talking to other people and it's about that internal dialogue?
First thing I have to remember to breathe. You lose your breath.
Step one,
breathe. You do. You lose your breath because it's all consuming. I give myself permission to grieve whatever that loss. Sometimes it's just a loss of, I really wish I could walk up or walk down a mountain, and I can't do that, Well, I fall down a mountain. But I give myself that time, but I time limit it because that's important.
Yeah.
It is important.
I talk about this all the time, that controlled grief. Like, take the time and say, you know what, I'm going to let myself fall apart and maybe go to sleep, but when I wake up, I've got to be okay. I got to keep going.
Yeah. And similar to your mapping exercise, I have certain things that I have to then have an action. I have to do something. There is energy in grief, and that energy can take you this way, or it can take you that way. And I saw, what that energy of grief was like on that day I was laying on the floor. I saw what that energy of grief was like when I was crawling into a bottle to deal with my pain. And so now I have the ability to use that energy of grief for good instead of evil, depending on who you talk to. But I have certain things that are already lined up in my tool chest that are action-based, because if you change your actions, you can change your thoughts. If you change your thoughts, you can change your emotions. But not to minimize the strength of your emotions, because it's so important.
Yeah.